just about like, how do you emotionally manipulate in a safe way.
That's actor, writer, and dungeon master Deborah Ann Woll. She's about to drop a brand new D&D show that's so immersive, I'm not even 100% sure we can still call it a tabletop game. It's called Tales from WOODCREEK, and it launches on the Dungeon Dudes channel on Halloween. But you don't need fog machines or a location scout to get your players locked in. Just a little consensual emotional manipulation. If you've seen Deborah DM, you'll know that even without tons of custom props and sprawling locations, she has a unique talent for making her players feel like they are in the story. She told me about her philosophy for immersive dungeon mastering, and it really comes down to just 3 tactics: uncertainty, presence, and pace. If you can master those, I believe you can run games where for 3 or 4 hours, your players forget everything else exists.
I feel like you have this real interest in like taking the game away from the table and putting it in the world.
Literally, yes.
When I asked Deborah why she thought she was so interested in this idea of hyper-immersive games, she went all the way back to her childhood. She said that what initially drew her to acting was that she would watch movies like Indiana Jones or Alien or Jaws and find herself wishing she could become those characters, live those experiences, which proves Deborah's built different. I would pay money to not have to live Ellen Ripley's life. But while she does love acting, it turns out it's not quite the same thing.
On some level, when you're an actor, you know what's going to happen, and so you have to kind of do all of these funny brain tricks to like trick yourself into not remembering that you know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, that's true, because your character doesn't know what's
Your character
gonna
doesn't
happen,
know, but obviously you do. D&D, at least as a player, you absolutely do not know what's coming. And so
I think there's like a devil's advocate argument to be made of like, is imagination like not enough to immerse yourself?
I do think imagination is enough. For me, it's the metagaming, right? It's the being at the table and knowing that you rolled a 2, and that probably that means that your insight check is unreliable, right? As the actual character, if you really were that person, you would have no idea. And so I think a lot of what I've been doing over the years in terms of immersion is trying to take that meta part out. How do I make my players feel like their characters? So they don't have to play like their characters or pretend to be their characters, they just are.
It's almost like she's trying to give her friends the experience that she, as an actor, doesn't really get to have, being surprised by what happens next and being in control of what you do about it. She's giving her players the chance to not just pretend to be a character, but to experience what it would feel like to be them.
I think actually when you talk about immersion, that's what we're talking about, is how do you bring your players into the present? So they're not thinking about stats. They're not thinking about, story plot lines and what their character backstory is. They're just actually living in the moment.
I think it's a really interesting angle to basically just be like, you can be your character and also be you, and that will make your character more authentic if there's like your real reactions and your real feelings like interlaced
fused together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm looking to like encourage for people, is that you don't have to erase yourself to become a character.
The underlying point that Deborah's making here is that immersion naturally gets deeper when players don't know everything. When they experience the world as their characters do, without the safety net of meta-knowledge, players are forced to react honestly rather than perform. She told me about one simple tactic that she uses to create that feeling of uncertainty.
You can choose to have me roll any like skill check for you secretly. When I tell you what you see, you have no idea whether you rolled high or low. And I think it just keeps people in the suspense of that moment and really not knowing.
And how often do you find that players take you up on that?
Some players love it and want me to do it for everything. They want me to do it for their like strength checks. And I'm like, like the result's just the result of that one. There's not a ton to do. But like, no, I want to be surprised by what you say, right? I get that point too, whereas like if you roll a 3 on your strength check, you're like, oh man, you already know you didn't make it.
Right.
Whereas if I'm like, you take 2 climbs up and suddenly your strength fails you and you fall to the ground, take bludgeoning damage, like they get to live through that experience more in the present.
All this stuff about uncertainty is really intertwined with her next tactic, presence. Is that jingle bells? Oh, you thought I meant presents, like gifts. And I did. Picture it, it's December 1st. October's skeletons are back in the closet, you finally finished digesting from November, and now it's time to get festive. You crack open your brand new 2025 D&D Advent Calendar from today's sponsor, Emberglow Gaming. Inside are pockets for each day, 24 little dopamine hits in the form of dice and other quest-related items. Because this D6 isn't all you're getting today. Like it or not, you're also getting a call to adventure. You awaken from your slumberings, the grit of sleep. This is The Darkness of Blighted Hearts, a Norse mythology-inspired adventure that plays out one day at a time. You'll roll the dice you just unboxed, or maybe you'll find a pendant that determines which god you encounter. Every calendar includes one exclusive Emberglow sharp-edged dice set, one full metal set, and other quest-related prizes. And the adventure isn't just a gimmick, there are real consequences to your choices. You can even die, but don't worry, there's more story waiting for you in the underworld. Get it to make your own December more adventurous, or as a gift for the D&D player, mythology nerd, or dice hoarder in your life. Order yours at the link in the description and use the code GinnyD for 10% off. You'll get 24 days of heroic adventures. Or one day of a total lack of self-control. No judgment. Okay, now that we've talked about presence, we can talk about presence, as in feeling present in a physical space.
And this is one that I think is actually, for me, like the most important one. I love terrain. All the miniatures and everything people make are beautiful. But they do have you look down in on your character as if you're like an omniscient viewer.
Right, there's a separation.
Yeah, specifically, I want to be like, okay, Ginny, you hear a noise behind you, right? Like, I want players to be doing this. I want them to feel like they're in the forest,
space.
Right? That it's that sense of like when we're sitting at the table, we can just feel the environment go up around us. It's not the northern side of the room, it's left or right. It's right in front of you. It's across there. You can see it off in the corner.
Yeah.
You know, it's putting your table in the space.
Those of you who watch my channel know that I am not the biggest fan of theater of the mind. My mind's theater is severely underfunded and frankly needs a lot more rehearsal. But even if you still use maps or grids for combat, this strategy can be combined with that. The trick of describing what's happening in the game with real-world directions is so easy and so effective. Anytime you watch Deborah DM, you'll see her players looking around, even if they're on a convention stage with nothing to look at but black curtains or blinding lights. But you can take it a step further by actually having your players stand up from the table and move around that space.
The big expensive way to do it is what we did on WOODCREEK, which is like go someplace spooky,
right,
you know?
Right.
And potentially a lot of WOODCREEK, which is really fun, is that the rooms that they're exploring the rooms that they are in can literally stand in for those spaces in many cases. I've run games in my living room where I've literally hid clues in like a potted plant. I can do WOODCREEK where I get you up out of your chair and I send you across the room on a little treasure hunt, but it's just like in our own space, again, for free.
Anything you can do to bring the scene out of your players' imaginations and into the world around them will deepen their immersion. Well, not anything. Ideally, you want to retain your security deposit. You can do this to help players picture their surroundings, but it can serve other purposes too. In some cases, it can even influence their emotions.
I do find some realism is really exciting because like I miss things like dark vision mattering. Like now everybody has dark vision, and I keep saying this, but I'm like, I like dark, creepy places.
Yeah.
And they're not that creepy in D&D
If everyone can
sometimes.
see.
If everyone can see in the dark, I have to like do magical darkness, but then I could be like, well, then why is there magical darkness?
Right.
Now there's a wizard or something involved. And I was like, that wasn't really the story I wanted to tell. Maybe I'm being a little tricksy, but when I get you up out of the table and away from your character sheet, and I actually put you in fog or in darkness, yes, you might have dark vision, but at least I can get that
Like the feeling.
Of like, oh yeah, I'm someplace where I can't get a real clear sense of what's around me. And in that moment, I want you to be able to make a perception check. I want you to still be able to play D&D.
Right.
But I want you to make that perception check not knowing.
Yeah.
And really getting that information, because that's what feels.
Of course, not everyone can bring their players into real-life spooky places. Some of us haven't been blessed with a haunted basement. But locations aren't your only option. There's a smaller scale way to make your game tangible that anybody can do.
Props are one way that, again, an easy way to quickly bring immersion, because when instead of, you're not reading out of a book what the letter says, but you're like, you find a letter and you give it to them. Anytime anyone finds anything with written words, literally for next to nothing, you can just do printer paper, soak it in tea or coffee, and then burn the edges and write on it in a fancy pen, and you're like done. It takes, probably 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's very cool. Maps that are not battle maps, but are just kind of like overviews.
Yeah.
So something like this is our map of WOODCREEK. So again, sketchy, just thrown out kind of thing. And it's not meant to be like, I'm here, you're there, but it just gives them kind of like, ooh, this is my playground.
I love real paper maps as an in-game object that you can bring out of game. Maybe they get a blank map that they can fill out as they explore, or a flawed or incomplete map that an NPC put together. If they buy a map in a shop and you hand them a real map, I promise everybody's gonna think that's extremely cool. And if they don't, take the map back. They don't deserve your cartographical stylings. A map is a real reference object that the characters and the players are using in fundamentally the same way, which is what makes it such a fun and easy way to blur the lines between player and character.
How do you approach combat in a way that feels immersive to you?
One round, going all the way around the table, is supposed to be 6 seconds.
Yeah.
That all of this is meant to be happening simultaneously. So for me, the immersion of that, the way that you stay in that, is to one, make it go, right?
If we're trying to put ourselves into our character's shoes and imagine that we're really in the world, combat is easily the weakest link in that chain. This isn't LARP. When you swing your greatsword at an enemy, you're not whacking the DM with a foam weapon, no matter how much you may want to. But for Deborah, making combat immersive is less about the physicality of the fight and more about the pace.
In the moment of battle, we're not that thoughtful. We have to react quick. We have to be, what's my first thing? What's my go-to thing? Because someone's gonna hit me with a mace, right? And that sometimes if you sit and you calculate out and you strategize too much, again, I think you're actually losing immersion. You're losing the true sense of urgency that is this moment. I will let a table plan a siege for 3 hours if they want to, right? Like if they want to plan out every little thing and go, okay, then I think first I should do this and then you should do that. That's fantastic, please, when you have that time. But once we're actually in the moment, I kind of want you going, I swing my mace at him, you know, or I cast Eldritch Blast, you know, because that's where you would be. Now you could argue some like more trained martial characters who've been through wars might have more presence during that time. But then we'd know that character and we'd maybe allow for that.
I know that we are not our characters, but like we're not so far from our characters that it's like a 2 full minute difference in how long it takes us to think of things.
The wizard's gonna go through their book and figure out, this one, no, not that one. Or they're gonna go, that one will work. Right, you know?
exactly.
And then I'm gonna cast it. And there are some DMs that'll be like, you know, like 6, 5, 4, 3, like make your choice, you know. I'm not quite that mean. I would love to play under a DM like that once and like see what it does to me.
I think this is one of those things that we all kind of know, but a lot of DMs don't feel super comfortable enforcing at the table. Not all of us have the confidence to start counting down from 6. I know I don't. But there are ways to make combat feel urgent without giving your players a literal countdown clock.
In terms of like pre-planning, I'm very pre-planned. I pre-roll all my monsters. So I roll them ahead of time and put them on my sheet ahead of time. I've literally got like, okay, this is their go-to action. I put that on the initiative with me. They just go, okay, Gnome, this is what he does. 2 rolls, go. You know, I try to make mine as quick as I can. The turn isn't really about the dice rolling. What the turn is I'm gonna repeat the last little bit of your turn as I go into my turn. And then I'm gonna repeat the last little bit of my turn as we go into your turn. So that we see that like, I think we even did it yesterday where I was like, the mace swings and misses and cracks into the wall. You swing and miss that side, but then the dagger comes around. So it's this like, I see what you want to do with your turn and then you narrate it in the flow. So that when we get around the whole table, even if it actually has taken us 5 minutes to do the whole round, we've tied each piece together so that just as you're missing your mace, you can see over there that the arrow has hit true on this one and keeping that battleground sense of presence happening.
Seeing this in action, it is striking how much faster and more intense it makes combat feel. By using her description to stitch all those individual turns together, she can preserve the illusion of everything happening simultaneously, even though rolling dice and reading spell descriptions will always be a lot slower than actually stabbing somebody. I mean, I assume. I am a big proponent of players feeling pressure when their characters would be feeling pressure. Nothing drains the life from a dramatic scene like somebody taking 90 seconds to decide how to react. And even though stress is something we typically don't want to feel, feeling it in the context of a game we're playing, where there are no real life stakes, is part of what we're signing up for, which is why we were talking about emotional manipulation in the first place.
As artists, I mean, in some level, it's our job to make you feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And it's a contract that we agree to when we get into storytelling that, you know, you've agreed to let me make you feel things.
Ultimately, that's what immersion is really about, making players feel things. Deborah told me her main goal as a DM, even on big productions like Tales from WOODCREEK, is to delight her players. And she's the first to admit that not everyone is delighted by the same kind of game. These are the tools she uses to draw her players in, but if they don't bring joy to your table, that's okay. One thing I've learned from years of talking about D&D D&D Online is that we are barely all playing the same game. The fact that every table is different based on their players' tastes is a feature, not a bug. Deborah and I don't align on everything. When it comes to theater of the mind versus battle maps, we're basically the Capulets and the Montagues. Two households, both alike in dignity, and both equally convinced the other is playing wrong. But this interview activated so many neurons in my brain. I am absolutely stealing a bunch of her ideas for my own games, and I hope they spark something for you too.
Where and when can people watch Tales from WOODCREEK now that they're all hyped about all the immersion?
Come and see all the immersion. This is definitely like TV immersion, right? Like we had a budget, we had a lot of incredible people helping us. This is the Prop Shop NYC made some of these incredible, I mean, look at this.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Look at this. You saw
it's so mysterious.
This is, I mean, it's just extraordinary what
this
they made.
My favorite.
This moves when it's turned on. But what I'm hoping is, I think actually if you watch the series, you're going to be able to take even something like this and either make your own version at home or change it around just a little bit. So there are all kinds of ways that you can take this kind of very effortful version of a puzzle and make it something that's easy to do at home. But yeah, you can watch Tales from WOODCREEK on the Dungeon Dudes channel. The actual show and proper is going to start on October 31st. But I believe sometime before that, we're doing a little promo in which Ginny might have joined us. I kidnapped Ginny G.
That should be the YouTube title. Deborah Ann Woll kidnapped me.
Oh my god, it really should be.
If you want to see all of Deborah's mad immersion skills in action, you can go watch the WOODCREEK prequel, which I was a player in, right here. And on this Friday, Halloween, the first episode of Tales from WOODCREEK will be available on the Dungeon Dudes channel.